Can you beat Celeste without jumping? Celeste is a game about climbing a mountain, and for that, we typically need to jump left, right, and center to pull through. But today, we're throwing that all to the wayside, and instead, we're going to be tackling Madeline's inner demons without our usual moveset. So, to start us off, what classifies as a jump for this run? Well, for our purposes, a jump is the result of pushing the jump button while we're on the ground. So, for other cases such as dashing and wall hopping, they're fair game. And while we could have a deeper discussion about what constitutes a jump, I ask that you stick with me on this one. Otherwise, the whole run would be over before it's even started. And for the sake of experimenting, everything else is by the books, and we can get into it. So let's stay grounded as we head up the mountain for this no jump challenge. Hey there folks, I'm Skip the Tutorial, and here we get to the bottom of gaming's weirdest challenges. And hey, if this is your first time here, then dash over to that subscribe for weekly deep dives into your biggest questions. From the get-go, the way that we handle this run is going to be vastly different than what we're used to doing. Off the bat, we lose a crucial asset for getting past obstacles, and that leaves us pretty limited as we tackle the mountain. Instead of the jump, we'll largely be using the dash, which is way worse. Not only do we lose out on our crucial jump-dash combo, but the dash is also way more constricting than the jump. When we dash, we're locked in a straight line, and only for a set distance, so the expressiveness of our usual jump is out the window. As you can imagine, with our travel distance nerfed and a lock in our controls, the run gets a lot harder. So, for that matter, here are the 11 rooms in the run that made me want to bail out of the climb, ranked from foothills to Everest. Number 11. Kicking off, this is one of the more visually simple rooms from the challenge, but don't be fooled folks, because there's still plenty that can go wrong here. Now, the intended strategy for this would be to jump past the spikes and then dash over to the higher ledge, but for us, we can obviously do only half of that. Fortunately, this room isn't stingy on the walls, meaning we can narrowly ledge grab our way up and out of there. Also worth noting for this one is that we get to show off our backwards wall jump, which admittedly isn't so useful in regular gameplay, but here, it comes in pretty clutch. From there, we take the platform out of the cave and ride on to the next screen. Number 10. Thanks to the wind current, this room gets a whole lot more painful to deal with. Now, we don't have the fallback of a starting jump, so the window for us to do this is very tight. To pull this off, we need to rappel off these ledges on the side to then snag just enough height to make it out of there. Though, this needs some smack-perfect timing, because we already waste so much of our invaluable hang time stamina on the earlier hops. But with all that, if we nail the dash just right, then we can continue to move up the mountain. Number 9. This is another case where we need to substitute a ledge grab and a wall hop combo where we'd regularly use a standard jump. However, the stakes here get so much higher. For this example, we have a raging dust bunny speeding up and down along this wall. So to get past, we'll need to ace our timing through the various windows of opportunity. And even after nailing our dashes and ledge grabs to skate on down, we're not even in the clear for this board. After riding past all of that, we still have to run scot-free to the right side. And if that goes south, then that means that we're doing this whole section all over again. And really, it's the nightmare that's fit for this haunted hotel. Number 8. When we're up here in the sky, the rooms get a whole lot longer to run through, and any problems that we have just start to pile up. For this one in particular, the clouds are a clear contender for one of the most annoying platforms to deal with. In a typical playthrough, we could use a normal jump to spring off of them like a trampoline, but here, we're not as fortunate. We can still use them to gain some height, but the way that we need to do it this time around is such a pain in comparison. Throw on top the gauntlet of spikes that we have to maneuver past, and partner with how uncomfortably close we get to slide through, and it's no surprise that this section set me up for plenty of deaths and frustration. But if our trajectory just so happens to work out, we'll fall right over to the next checkpoint and take the flag to go. Number 7. Again, we're thrown headfirst into a wave of cloud jumps, but here the timing gets squeezed down to wafer thin. To time the jumps right in this set, we need to nail our dashes down to a pinpoint. Otherwise, we're headed for a reset. In the first part, we have to deal with this pink cloud, which will disintegrate after one bounce. So we have to pull off our move successfully on the first try if we want to make it past the halfway mark. Granted, there is some lenience, but the path to run past this is a tough one. But even after that, we've still got to deal with this last cloud jump at the back of the room. And that brings along a new issue. Since we have to save our dash for the spikes overhead, we need to snag this wall using only the basic cloud hops. And frankly, this took me plenty of time to pull off. But when we finally hit it, we can dash past the strawberry and head to the next challenge. Number 6. This is an example where the lack of a jump dash combo really wears thin on us. The bubble right down here lies just at the very extent of how far we can reach without jumping. And since we don't have any walls nearby that could give us access to close the gap, we just need to test our distance and stretch as far as we can to pop into the thing. To be frank, it also isn't easy to fly out of here with the zigzag dashes that we need. And believe me, the nerves will be tense when trying to get out of here, especially if you're like me and you happen to almost miss the last wall climb. Number 5. This screen throws out a curveball to our dash, and instead, it requires that we use a bit of brain power to figure it out. The gimmick here is that our dash is linked to the motion of the platform, so to suss this out, we're gonna need to get kinda tricky with our setup. So while my first intention would be to toss Theo and then cross over, that doesn't quite work, because as soon as we dash to get up, he gets rocketed back to square one. Also, we're not allowed to toss him into the pit, which can be a real hassle when we're just trying to set up and then all of a sudden he's tumbling into the void. So how do we handle this? Well, we essentially have to lock the platform in place with a whole bunch of dashes, and then when the cooldown is on, chuck him to the platform and head over top while he rides to the other side. In my head, this is a prime example of a room that's tough to figure out both in theory and in the execution. Number 4. So this room really ramps up in the jumpless run. In an average playthrough, we could just jump off this platform and then climb into safety. But here, that's just not an option. And if we try to dash through the cracks, we'll just get stuck between a rock and a fast-moving hard place. So, to handle this, we'll need to lock this starter platform to give ourselves some time, and then cling onto the right ledge to allow us to wall jump up and out of there. But we also can't hesitate on our timing, because otherwise, we'll be headed to a restart on the room. It's a pattern that resonates throughout the whole section, but to be safe here, we'll need some quick yet careful timing. Number 3. This is a tough one, because it's not actually possible without some help. But luckily for us, we do get a loyal friend that's ready to boost us out. Unfortunately, he's also trying to kill us. So when one of these floating tentacle hell spawns gets close, we need to bop it on the dome piece. That'll give us back a dash just like any other platform would. In order to flow through this room, we need to be in lockstep with the enemy, and find this rhythm that we can use to power some of the longer jumps out of the place. This gets especially apparent with the leap across the bottom of the room and the final bounce to bail out. Really, the takeaway here is that friends can come in the least likely of places. Number 2. Here's where the research gets real out of whack. And honestly, this is the part of my research that required me to bust out the assist mode. Now, believe me, I'm not advocating for this in the rest of the run, and the only feature that I'm showcasing here is slowing down the game speed. Because if we're gonna talk about what's theoretically possible to pull off in the run, then this definitely will show us what we can do in the most ideal situations. But that's enough about our methods, because the challenge here is still gonna get tough to breathe. While our usual jaunt through this would include riding this guy and then hurdling the spikes as they come along, we don't have that opportunity. And much to my dismay, dashes don't maintain momentum in the same way that a jump does. So this chunky dude will blaze past us unless we ride right up by the front. The issue with that is that as soon as we land, we're right on the tail end of the ride. And that means we're right out of luck if we want to get over the next set of obstacles. Just walking isn't gonna get us there, so we need to land a horizontal dash, then followed by a diagonal in quick succession to bust us out. And then we also have to worry about accidentally sideways blasting right into death. There are a lot of balls in the air for this stage, even at 50% speed, but in the end, it does look pretty cool. Number 1. This stage ends up being a real gauntlet, because with so many different pieces, it stacks up to feel crazy long. Thankfully, we have some multiple dashes by this point, but that doesn't really change the big issue here. In this level, we can't just simply clear the spikes in the middle of the room. We either have to jump or dash over to this wall, and then skip over to the rising platform to send it on the right path. And for all of that to work, there's not a lot of time to perfect it, and it means this room is plenty of trial and error. But in our favor, we can land a tight squeeze. We tuck the initial platform under the next to alleviate some time pressure. And yeah, that still doesn't put us in the clear, because that sets us up for an admittedly frantic set of dashes and wall jumps to get to the end successfully. Now, with all of those crazy challenges conquered, and plenty of other rooms behind us, how does that look for the run? Well, even though we can complete a surprising amount of chunks in the game without jumping, there still are some rooms that are going to hold us back from that mission complete, even with the help of slow down timing. Which means we'll have to lay this one to rest and say it's not entirely possible, even if we can do some impressive feats. And with that, folks, climb to this one in the top right to see us take on snipper clips without snipping. Or whack down in the bottom right for another video. If you'd like to support the channel and get new uploads every week, then land that subscribe below. But until then, take care, and you have a good one, alright?